The moment Jack Harrison opened his front door that rainy September evening, his life changed forever, though neither he nor the drenched college student standing on his porch could have possibly imagined how. If you're joining us for this incredible journey of unexpected love, family, and the discovery that wealth comes in many forms, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming stories that remind us what truly matters in life. Rain pelted against the windows of Jack's modest two-bedroom home in the college town of Westfield. At 42, the lines around his eyes had deepened since his wife's passing 5 years ago, but the warmth in them remained unchanged, especially when he looked at his 16-year-old daughter, Lily, who was currently sprawled across the living room floor surrounded by textbooks. "Dad, someone's at the door," Lily called without looking up from her calculus homework. Jack wiped his hands on a dish towel and headed to the front door. When he opened it, he found a young woman, completely soaked, clutching a backpack to her chest. Her dark hair was plastered to her face, and despite her obvious discomfort, there was something dignified in the way she stood. "I'm so sorry to bother you," she said, her voice steady despite her shivering. "My name is Emma Chen. I'm a student at Westfield College. There was a fire in my apartment building, and the housing office gave me your address. They said you're on the emergency housing list for students?" Jack nodded, suddenly remembering the form he'd filled out years ago when the college had reached out to local homeowners. With the housing shortage in town, they'd created a program for community members to offer temporary accommodations to students in crisis. He'd signed up after his wife died, thinking the extra income might help, but had never been called upon until now. "Of course, come in," he said, stepping aside. "You're drenched." Emma hesitated for just a moment before stepping inside. "Thank you. They said it would only be for a few weeks until they can find me permanent housing." Jack led her into the living room where Lily looked up, curiosity written across her face, a face that resembled her mother's so strongly it sometimes caught Jack off guard. "Lily, this is Emma. She'll be staying with us for a little while." That night, as Jack made up the small guest room that had mostly been used for storage since his mother-in-law's last visit, he wondered if he'd made the right decision. He was a high school English teacher with a teenage daughter. Their routine was comfortable, if a bit lonely. Having a stranger in their home would change things. He couldn't have known then how much. Emma slipped into their lives with surprising ease. She was studying environmental engineering and spent most evenings at the kitchen table with her laptop and textbooks, often helping Lily with her science homework. Jack noticed how his daughter blossomed under Emma's attention, talking more at dinner and even showing interest in colleges, something she'd been resistant to discussing with him. 2 weeks into Emma's stay, Jack came home to find the two of them laughing in the kitchen, flour dusting their clothes and faces as they attempted to make dumplings from scratch. "Emma's teaching me her grandmother's recipe," Lily explained, her smile wider than Jack had seen in years. "My grandmother would be horrified at how these are turning out," Emma laughed, but there was something in her eyes, a shadow of homesickness that Jack recognized all too well. "Where is your family?" he asked later that night as they sat on the porch, mugs of tea warming their hands against the autumn chill. Emma stared into her mug. "San Francisco, officially. But they travel a lot for business. They must be worried about the fire." A small, sad smile touched her lips. "I didn't tell them. They're busy. And it wasn't a big fire, just enough to make the building uninhabitable for a while." Jack wanted to press further but respected her privacy. Everyone had their stories, their reasons for keeping parts of themselves hidden. He knew that better than most. As weeks turned into a month, and then 2, the college housing office kept extending Emma's stay. The apartment they'd promised had fallen through, then another. Jack found he didn't mind. Their home felt fuller, warmer somehow, with her presence. One evening, after Lily had gone to bed, Emma helped Jack grade papers at the dining room table. "You're good at this," he said, noticing her insightful comments on his students' essays. "I had a wonderful English teacher in high school," she replied. "He changed my life." Made me believe I could do anything. And yet you chose engineering over literature. Emma smiled. My father had strong opinions about practical careers. There was something in her tone that made Jack look up. And what did you want? To make a difference, she said simply. Environmental engineering lets me do that. But I still read poetry when no one's looking. Jack laughed. Your secret's safe with me. Their eyes met across the table, and for a moment, something shifted between them, a recognition, perhaps, of kindred spirits. Jack looked away first, suddenly aware of how inappropriate it would be to feel anything beyond friendship for the young woman staying in his home. But feelings rarely obey propriety. As autumn deepened into winter, their lives fell into a comfortable rhythm. Emma cooked dinner on Tuesdays and Thursdays when Jack had late faculty meetings. Jack drove her to campus on his way to the high school. Lily began to confide in Emma about things she'd never tell her father: school drama, her crush on a boy in her chemistry class, her fears about college. She talks to you, Jack said one night after Emma had helped Lily through a particularly difficult social situation at school. She talks to you too, Emma replied. Just differently. She adores you, Jack. She just doesn't want to worry you. I'm her father. It's my job to worry. Emma smiled. And you're excellent at it. Their hands were close on the couch cushion between them. Jack was acutely aware of how easy it would be to move his fingers just an inch and touch hers. He didn't. December brought heavy snow and the end of the semester. Emma should have moved out weeks ago, but when the housing office called with yet another option, Jack found himself saying, actually, our arrangement is working fine. Emma can stay through next semester if she wants. He hadn't discussed it with her first, and that night he apologized for presuming. I should have asked you. You probably want your own place. Emma was quiet for a long moment. Actually, I'd like to stay. If you and Lily are sure. We're sure, he said, perhaps too quickly. Christmas approached, and Jack noticed Emma growing quieter, spending more time on her phone, often speaking in hushed Mandarin that he couldn't understand. When he asked if she'd be visiting her family for the holidays, she shook her head. They're in Singapore for business. It's easier if I stay here. On Christmas Eve, after they'd decorated the tree and Lily had gone to bed, Emma handed Jack a small, carefully wrapped package. You didn't have to get me anything, he said, embarrassed because he had, in fact, bought her a gift as well, a vintage collection of Mary Oliver poetry he'd found at a used bookstore. Open it, she urged. Inside was a fountain pen, elegant but not flashy. It's beautiful, he said, turning it over in his hands. You mentioned once that you used to write poetry before your wife died. I thought maybe you might start again. Jack stared at the pen, emotion tightening his throat. He hadn't told anyone about his abandoned writing, not even Lily. How did you know this was exactly what I needed? Emma's smile was soft in the glow of the Christmas lights. I pay attention. He gave her the book of poetry, and when she opened it, her eyes filled with tears. Mary Oliver is my favorite, she whispered. How did you know? I pay attention too, he said. Their eyes met, and this time, neither looked away. Jack felt himself leaning forward, drawn by something he couldn't resist any longer. Their lips met in a gentle kiss that felt both inevitable and impossible. When they pulled apart, reality crashed back. I'm sorry, Jack said immediately. That was inappropriate. You're a student, you're staying in my home. I'm 24, Emma interrupted. And I've been falling in love with you for months. The confession hung between them, honest and terrifying. I have a daughter to think about, Jack said, though his heart was racing with possibilities. I know. I care about Lily too. That's why I've tried so hard not to feel this way. They agreed to take things slowly, to be careful about how they navigated this new territory, especially around Lily. But as winter melted into spring, it became increasingly difficult to hide the change in their relationship. One Saturday morning, Lily walked into the kitchen to find them making breakfast together, standing closer than necessary, laughing at some private joke. She watched them for a moment before announcing her presence. "So, are you guys together now?" she asked bluntly. Jack nearly dropped the spatula. "Lily, because if you are, it's about time. I've been watching you make heart eyes at each other for months." Emma burst out laughing while Jack stood speechless. "You're okay with this?" he finally managed. Lily rolled her eyes in that particular teenage way. "Dad, Mom's been gone for 5 years. Don't you think she'd want you to be happy?" That night, after Lily had gone to bed, Jack and Emma sat on the porch swing, his arm around her shoulders. "She's an amazing kid," Emma said. "She is," Jack agreed. "But this is still complicated. You're young, you have your whole career ahead of you. I'm a high school teacher with a mortgage and a teenager." Emma was quiet for a moment. "There's something I need to tell you," she said finally. "Something I should have told you months ago." Jack felt a chill that had nothing to do with the spring evening. "What is it?" "My family, they're not just in business. My father is Chen Wei, the founder of Green Tech Solutions." Jack stared at her blankly. "It's a multinational clean energy corporation," she continued. "My family is wealthy. Very wealthy." Understanding dawned slowly. "You're not just a college student struggling to find housing." Emma looked down. "The fire was real. But I could have found another place easily. I stayed because from the moment I met you and Lily, I felt like I'd found something I'd been missing my whole life. Something real." Jack pulled away slightly. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because people treat me differently when they know. They want things from me, or they assume I'm spoiled and entitled. I just wanted to be Emma, not Chen Wei's daughter." The revelation created a rift between them. Jack felt deceived, though he understood her reasons. For days, they moved around each other carefully, politely, the easy intimacy they developed now strained by unspoken questions. It was Lily who finally broke the tension. At dinner one night, she slammed her fork down. "This is ridiculous. Emma lied about being rich. Dad, you lied about being fine after Mom died when you were actually falling apart. Everyone has secrets. Get over it." Both adults stared at her in shock. "What?" she demanded. "Am I wrong?" She wasn't, and they all knew it. Later that night, Jack found Emma packing her things. "What are you doing?" he asked from the doorway. "I think it's time I found my own place," she said without looking at him. "This has gotten too complicated." "Running away is easy," he said quietly. "Trust me, I've wanted to do it many times since Sarah died." Emma finally met his eyes. "I'm not running away. I'm giving you space to decide if you can accept who I really am." "I know who you really are," Jack said, stepping into the room. "You're the woman who taught my daughter to make dumplings. Who helps me grade papers even though you don't have to. Who leaves notes in the margins of books and always remembers to buy the good coffee when we run out." He took her hands in his. "I don't care about your family's money. I care about you, the real you that I've been living with for the past 6 months." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "My parents won't approve. They have expectations. And do those expectations make you happy?" She shook her head. "Then maybe it's time to create your own expectations," he said. "Your own life." Spring turned to summer, and Emma didn't move out. Instead, they converted the garage into a study where she could work on her graduate school applications and Jack could write poetry again, something he'd returned to with her encouragement. In July, Emma's parents finally discovered where their daughter had been living. The sleek black car that pulled up outside their modest home drew curious looks from neighbors. Jack watched from the porch as a distinguished-looking couple emerged, the man in an impeccable suit, the woman in designer clothes that probably cost more than his monthly salary. Emma met them in the driveway, her back straight, her voice calm as she introduced Jack and Lily. The conversation that followed was tense, with her father alternating between Mandarin and English, clearly unhappy with the situation. "You could be doing your graduate work at MIT or Stanford," he said. "Instead, you're living in this place." "This place is my home now," Emma replied firmly. "And Jack and Lily are my family." Her mother studied Jack with calculating eyes. "What do you want from our daughter? Money? Connections?" Before Jack could answer, Lily stepped forward. "He doesn't want anything except for Emma to be happy. Which is more than I can say for you." "Lily," Jack warned, but he couldn't help feeling proud of her defense. The confrontation ended with Emma's parents leaving in anger, warning that she was making a terrible mistake. As the car pulled away, Emma stood in the driveway, tears streaming down her face despite her determined expression. That night, she cried in Jack's arms. "I always tried so hard to please them," she whispered. "To be the perfect daughter." "You don't have to be perfect," he told her. "Not for them, not for me. Just be you." The following months brought challenges as Emma navigated her new independence from her family's expectations. There were difficult phone calls, attempts at reconciliation that fell short, and finally, a tentative peace when her mother visited alone in October, making an effort to understand her daughter's choices. "He makes you happy," she observed as they watched Jack and Lily raking leaves in the yard. It wasn't a question. "Yes," Emma said simply. "They both do. Your father will come around eventually. He loves you, even if he doesn't understand you." By Christmas, 1 year after their first kiss, Jack took Emma back to the same spot by the Christmas tree and got down on one knee. "I don't have a fancy ring or a fortune to offer you," he began. Emma stopped him with a finger to his lips. "I have enough fortune for both of us. What I never had was this, a real home, a family built on love instead of obligation." When he slipped the simple diamond ring on her finger, one that had belonged to his grandmother, Emma looked at it as if it were the crown jewels. "Yes," she said before he could even ask the question. 1,000 times, yes. They were married the following summer in the backyard of the house where they'd found each other. Emma's parents attended, her father still stiff but making an effort for his daughter's sake. Lily, now 17 and headed to college herself in the fall, served as Emma's maid of honor. During the reception, Jack found a moment alone with his new father-in-law. "I want you to know," he said carefully, "that I never wanted Emma's money. We've set up accounts so that my teaching salary covers our household expenses. The money she's invested from her trust fund is going toward environmental research grants and college scholarships for kids from our high school." Chen Wei studied him for a long moment. "My daughter could have married anyone, business partners' sons, politicians, men of great influence. Instead, she chose a teacher with a modest home and a big heart." He paused. "Perhaps she is wiser than her father." It was as close to a blessing as they were likely to get. That night, as Jack and Emma danced under strings of lights in their backyard, surrounded by friends and family, he whispered in her ear, "Did you ever imagine, when you showed up on my doorstep that rainy night, that we'd end up here?" Emma smiled up at him. "No. But I'm so glad I got caught in the rain." Years passed. Lily graduated from college and went on to medical school. Emma completed her PhD and started an environmental consulting firm that partnered with her father's company, slowly rebuilding that relationship. Jack continued teaching but also published his first book of poetry, dedicated to E, who brought the words back. Their home remained modest, though they added a sunroom where Emma grew plants year-round and Jack graded papers. They could have moved to a mansion, but neither wanted to. This was where their story had begun, where love had found them when they least expected it. On their 5th wedding anniversary, they hosted a gathering in the same backyard where they'd been married. Friends from both their worlds mingled, Jack's fellow teachers alongside Emma's business associates, Lily home from medical school with her boyfriend, and even Emma's parents, who had gradually warmed to their son-in-law over the years. As twilight fell and lanterns illuminated the yard, Jack found Emma standing alone by the old oak tree, looking up at the stars. "Penny for your thoughts," he said, slipping his arm around her waist. "I was just thinking about how differently my life could have turned out," she replied, leaning into him. "If there hadn't been a fire, if the housing office had sent me somewhere else, if I'd listened to my father and gone to Stanford instead. Do you ever regret it?" Jack asked, the question he sometimes still wondered about late at night. "Choosing this life instead of the one you were born into?" Emma turned to face him, her eyes reflecting the lantern light. "Jack Harrison, after all these years, how can you still ask me that?" She took his face in her hands. "I didn't give up anything that mattered. I gained everything." From across the yard, Lily called out to them. "Dad! Emma! Come on, we're about to cut the cake." They walked hand in hand back to their guests, to the life they'd built together, a life rich in ways that had nothing to do with money. 10 years into their marriage, Emma's environmental work had gained international recognition. She'd developed sustainable water filtration systems being implemented in developing countries, funded by a foundation she and Jack had established using part of her inheritance. Jack had become principal of the high school, where he still taught one English class and ran a popular poetry club. Their home had seen some renovations over the years, practical updates rather than extravagant changes. The guest room where Emma had first stayed was now occasionally occupied by Lily when she visited from her medical residency across the country. One evening, as they sat on their porch swing, the same one where they'd shared so many important conversations, Emma handed Jack an envelope. "What's this?" he asked. "Open it," she said, a nervous smile playing on her lips. Inside was a letter from an international adoption agency. Jack read it, his eyes widening. "They've approved us," he whispered, hardly daring to believe it. Emma nodded, tears shimmering in her eyes. "We can go to Shanghai next month to meet her. She's 4 years old, and her name is May." Jack pulled Emma into his arms, his heart too full for words. They had been trying to adopt for 2 years, navigating complicated international processes and disappointments. "A daughter," he finally managed. "We're going to have another daughter." When they brought May home 3 months later, their lives changed once again. The quiet routines they'd established gave way to the beautiful chaos of raising a child. Lily flew home to meet her new sister, the two forming an instant bond despite the years between them. Emma's parents, now in their 70s, visited more frequently, Chen Wei teaching May Mandarin while his wife filled the freezer with homemade dumplings far superior to Emma and Lily's first attempt years ago. Life wasn't perfect. They faced challenges, May's adjustment to her new home and language, the balance of their careers with parenthood, the occasional clash of parenting styles. But they faced each obstacle together, stronger for the journey that had brought them to this point. On a rainy evening much like the one when they'd first met, Jack found Emma sitting at the kitchen table, helping May with her homework. The scene struck him with such powerful déjà vu that he paused in the doorway, momentarily transported back 15 years to when another dark-haired girl had sat at the table with Emma. "Dad!" May called out when she spotted him, still delighting in the word. "Emma's teaching me about the water cycle." Jack joined them at the table, watching as his wife patiently explained evaporation and condensation to their daughter. In that moment, the full circle of their lives hit him with stunning clarity, how a single knock on a door had led to this rich tapestry of love and family. Later that night, after May was asleep, Jack pulled out the fountain pen Emma had given him that first Christmas and began to write. Not poetry this time, but the story of how a single dad had opened his home to a college girl, and how love had found them before he learned she was a billionaire's daughter. It wasn't about the money, it never had been. It was about finding home in unexpected places, about the family you choose, and about the kind of wealth that couldn't be measured in dollars. When Emma found the pages the next morning, she read them with tears in her eyes before adding a note at the bottom in her elegant handwriting. The greatest fortune I ever received was showing up at your door that rainy night. Everything else was just money. And in the years that followed, whenever anyone asked them the secret to their happiness, that was the story they told, of rain and shelter, of dumplings and poetry, of secrets revealed and acceptance given. Of how the richest life is measured not by what you have, but by whom you love. As their story spread among friends and family, touching hearts and inspiring others to look beyond appearances and expectations, Jack and Emma remained grounded in the simple truth they discovered together, that sometimes the most precious things come to us disguised as something else entirely, and that the most valuable inheritance we can leave behind is not wealth, but love. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more tales of unexpected love and the true meaning of wealth. Remember that the most beautiful stories often begin with a single moment of kindness, opening a door, offering shelter, or simply seeing someone for who they truly are.